we know it's broken when the same women who can rally for Iranian women to take off their hijab don't have a word to say about Palestinian women dying in child labor, of Palestinian mothers having their newborns decompose in incubators because of Israel. That is not feminism. If you only care what a woman wears, but you don't care how she dies, then you are not a feminist. You are a propagandist.
Feminism for a long time was regarded as a sort of a moral compass that we could rely on to call power to account. Whether or not they listened to it was a different thing. But this idea that, inequalities, forms of oppression was something that at the very least you had to pay heed to or kind of, throw a bone symbolically at. Do you think feminism still holds that place? Like, can we still call on people to sort of, change policies based on a feminist framework? And if we can't, what do we do as women at this time when there is a global assault on our freedoms? You spoke about Noor in your book. The right to reproductive health is both an issue now for Palestinian women in displaced tents in Gaza, and it's also an issue for American women who can't get abortions, who can't get contraception.
I think feminism was already quite dead before Gaza because it had become this really perverse and obscene iteration of, feminism had become about what actress was paid half her male co-star's salary and which CEO had to work to get on the board of what company. And personally, I don't care at all about what CEOs have to do and what board members do and what actors get paid. Well, it couldn't care less if an actress got half her male counterparts. I mean, we're talking about people with millions. It doesn't affect any of us in any way. Shut up and go away. Feminism has to be about protecting women, not about protecting capital and not about protecting, again, power. So this girl boss capitalism, this white feminism version of things, I think was already an obscenity, But we know it's broken when the same women who can rally for Iranian women to take off their hijab don't have a word to say about Palestinian women dying in child labor, of Palestinian mothers having their newborns decompose in incubators because of Israel. That is not feminism. If you only care what a woman wears, but you don't care how she dies, then you are not a feminist. You are a propagandist.
A propagandist for what, would you say?
For whatever agenda is interested in removing Iranian hijabs. I really think that if you care about Iranian women, but you haven't said a word about the Gazan woman who has no food, whose child is skin and bones, who has a 12-year-old who weighs 3 kilos, you are not a feminist. You are a propagandist. You are working at the service of something that has nothing to do about women. Whether a woman wears a skirt or a veil is up to that woman. I'm very happy to talk about veils, but not at the silence of what's happening to women in Palestine. And let's not just talk about women. Let's also talk about the Palestinian men who are, you can call them political prisoners if you want, but they're not prisoners. They're held without charge. They are kept for decades without charge. They are raped in Israeli custody and captivity. They are abused. They are starved. They are psychologically tormented. So let's not just talk about women here. But again, this is one of the things that has to be remade. What is feminism going to mean in 2025? Because it really cannot be about salaries. It's not about salaries anymore, unfortunately.
You wrote about a UN Commission of Inquiry report detailing systematic sexual violence against Palestinian women. Can you share a little bit about that report? And I'm asking you to share about this, knowing it's extremely sensitive. So, warning for people that it's going to be sensitive what we discuss. But I'm asking you to do so because of how little coverage that report received.
I think it's important to say that Israel has systematically and historically always practiced this kind of sexual violence against Palestinian women. So this is not something that began 2 years ago. But a report was released last year that detailed some of that. And it's pervasive. It's a matter of policy. It's not one errant Israeli soldier. It's the entire outfit. And it ranges from sexually abusing women who are in Israeli captivity, to women trying to pass through Israeli checkpoints. And, when a woman cannot pass through a checkpoint because she's afraid that she's going to be violated, it means she can't go to school. It means she can't go to work. It means she cannot be united with her family. And, those checkpoints are cages. They're not places where the woman can turn to someone and say, could you help me? Do you see what he's doing? We're talking also about women who, when the Israeli forces raid their homes, will abuse them in front of their families, banking on shame. They will photograph them as blackmail. And it's a really horrific report, and it got absolutely no coverage anywhere.
How do you explain that?
Again, you're not reading a newspaper, you're reading propaganda. If we're talking about facts, those are facts. These are not opinions. This is not someone's opinion. It wasn't covered anywhere. It wasn't covered by your favorite feminists, TM, in culture and entertainment. It wasn't covered on Oprah's show. Beyonce didn't wear a T-shirt about it. And they're not feminists. I mean, that's all I can say. Because if you are a feminist, any of those things should cause you deep distress, and you should be organizing in order to not only raise awareness about what's happening, but to stop it. And no one was.